Well, this is it. We've come to the moment of reckoning in the tournament. It's even beyond the business end of the tournament. The business has been done to qualify, and then there were four. After tonight, there will still be four. The only difference is one team will have sailed through to the final, the other will be sitting and awaiting the winner of the match we will have tomorrow. But let's tell you what match lies ahead today. It's the two teams who toiled hard over two halves of the season to finish on 1 and 2. It's Delhi against Chennai. It's qualifier number 1 from Dubai. And here we are to analyze it all on Cricbuzz Live in association with our fantasy partner, My 11th Circle. And just like everyone's tried to put together their best team, we've got a brand new combination of three right here for qualifier number 1. In the lime green corner, we've got Shaun Pollock, and in beautiful deep blue, Ajay Jadeja. Welcome.
Good evening. Hi, Gautam. Lovely to see you. Good to be amongst all of you. Polly, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, we've got the big guns in. We've got the big guns in Gautam for the big matches, and that's the way it should be. Points table, these top two. I love the system. I must say it again. I love the system where the top two get a second bite of the cherry. You finish at the top and you play off automatically into the final. And if you lose after having a wonderful season, you've won 9 games or 10 games. If you do manage to lose one and slip up, then you still go through and get an opportunity to get back into that final. So I really do like the system. And I suppose Ajay's sort of given us an inkling into what he thinks. I mean, he's surrounded in yellow there, so I think he's backing Chennai today.
But Ajay, I'm sure you'll come back by saying that the resplendent blue kurta keeps you grounded in Delhi and just gives you a bit of a background. Behind you is Chennai in the distance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I think this probably has been the team throughout, with one being Chennai, the other being the other blue, which is Mumbai. Those are two of my favorite teams in the IPL. But yes, I mean, the side that they're up against today, Delhi is no mean side. I mean, you probably, the young guns in there. I mean, you always don't need those big guns. Big guns need to fire as well. We do have bigger guns at Chennai Super Kings, but they aren't firing. But these guys are, doing pretty well, and they've been pretty, stable and solid, and not been unlike most of the teams who are at the bottom of the league, where there's been chopping and changing and matchups going on. They played some pure cricket and they played some good cricket, and there's there's a lot of talent in this side. What you see in this side, is full of talent. I mean, it's just that, can they come together today against a wily old fox, Mr. Mahendra Singh Dhoni?
Yeah, interesting point that he makes, and we'll come back to that point after we look at the Chennai squad. A lot of talk about, have they been the stable side at the start of the season, Shaun? They were referred to it as the old men, and wasn't wrong if you look at the average ages, but it's just been the way he's marshaled his resources, the wily old fox, Shaun.
Yeah, he has. I think they've done really well in despite of some of the performances. I mean, talk about the wily old foxes. I think those have been the sort of three places where there hasn't been great performances from. Dhoni himself with the bat, Suresh Raina, Robin Uthappa is also a wily old fox. All those guys who've been given the opportunities haven't really managed to produce. But in spite of that, I think it's been a fantastic top order performance by the two at the top of the log. I think they're in the top 3 of the run getters for the season. So they've been in fine form. And I think bowling-wise, I think they've been okay. I think they've done a decent job and obviously got themselves into a position where they can go straight to that final. So they have managed it well. Probably haven't played the cricket they'd want to, but if they get it right in these next 2, all will be forgiven.
Before we discuss what we could possibly see at the toss, one quick point, Ajay, you started to make it about Delhi and the fact that they're a team who can field maybe 3 overseas players. I mean, whenever you come to a game here, you are like, who are your 4 overseas? There's no guarantee. You don't have to have 4 overseas. It's just a maximum of 4 overseas. And they've been able to say, we can go with 3. That's the Indian talent they have on board.
Yeah, I think they're blessed to have that talent. They put that talent together about 3 years ago in that auction. And I think they probably have a problem of plenty. The only problem they've had in the last couple of years has been right at that top, because you have, somebody like Ajinkya Rahane sitting outside, Stephen Smith, not making into that side. So, you had a few chopping and changing. Whenever it's happened right at that top. And it's not because of, lack of talent that they've had, but just because you have such strong bench strength that you've been having, that you can't wait for these guys to, come good. So that's been their only problem, the way I see it. Otherwise, I mean, look at that side. I mean, they're match winners on their own. And maybe, Rishabh Pant probably was, led them, not had the best year that we've, seen him have in the last few years. Shreyas Iyer has not looked as good as, what we've seen him do in the past. And, Prithvi Shaw has disappointed me personally as a, fan when I saw him come back this year after that slump that he's had at Indian cricket and a year of bad cricket. He started off brilliantly in that first half of the IPL when it was held in India, but he just hasn't carried on from there. So, those three guys are pretty similar to, the big guns in Chennai as well. But, as a unit, as a team, when you have 5 bowlers, I mean, I think the strength for Delhi, I feel, is those bowlers that they have. I mean, it allows a captain to, chop and change whenever he wants them to bowl, whatever stage that they want them to bowl, because except for probably Akshar, who has probably done the best for them. I mean, you look at Rabada, you look at Nokia, you look at Ashwin, Avesh Khan has done exceptionally well for them. So when you have 5 bowlers who are on song, it just covers up your, batting weaknesses or things that have gone with your batting. That's probably been the main reason why they're looking so good.
Very quickly, before we, of course, see what happens at the toss, Shaun, in a big game like this, would you look at the toss any differently from any of the other games we've seen building up to this?
I don't think you would. I think obviously you've got to consult and have a look at the surface. We never really get a good feel for it being based out of the stadium. But then, also going to the mindset, who likes to do what? I know Ricky Ponting's a massive believer on runs on the board. So if he wins, there's a chance he might influence it and say, come on, let's get the runs and then see what we can do. But yeah, I don't think, I mean, you see batting second, Delhi's record this season, they've done better. I mean, that's where their strength has lied. But sometimes it also goes down to you just have to chase not much because teams go hard and put themselves in a bad situation.
Ajay, would you tend to concur with that? Because obviously it leans towards sides chasing it in this particular venue. But are you a believer in, it's not a final, but it's sort of getting to that stage, runs on the board in a big match?
I am. I'm one of those old school guys who believes that it's better to have 11 men when it's the real time crunch time comes in a game, rather than have a couple of guys taking that entire pressure all by themselves. So in that front, yes. But somehow I feel when you have a low scoring game, especially in this format, it has always been wiser. Or we've seen it. I mean, it's just that the numbers also show you that sometimes teams try too hard when they're batting first. They don't know what kind of total would work out or not, and then it just eases out, and especially if you have a good bowling attack. I mean, the list that you put up there is a great example of that. I mean, it looks like, Delhi chases brilliantly, but I think what they're chasing when their bowlers have gone out and done their job for them already is much lower than what actually would have been a par score. So had they batted first, would they have got to that par score or above par? Would the batting have taken them through or not? So, but I'm still a firm believer that, runs on board are always something that you should play with. Let the other guy come out and, try and score, because, especially for somebody who's, batted at, latter part of the innings, it is always easier for me if Shaun Pollock was bowling to me and we were batting first in the last over. He's happily going to give me a single, right? So I'm only plus from there. Whereas if I'm batting against him and we need 6 in that last over, he's not going to allow me to take that single. I'll have to work hard for it. So somehow batting first, you get a few freebies or gifts, or there's no pressure of any kind. So why would you not want to take that opportunity and make the most of it?
Well, for the moment, I can tell you it's not out of choice, but out of invitation that Rishabh Pant and Delhi will bat first, because MS Dhoni has won the toss and decided they will do what they've done so well this season, and that is chase. They've won every single time chasing. Have a look at that. Their record this season, 5 times chasing, 5 times won. Not a bad record to have. This is number 6 for them, where they've asked the opposition to bat, Shaun. So I think we'll put that restriction to bed. But from a point of view of a team who have lost the toss, you sort of tell yourself, listen, we didn't opt to do this, but we can do exactly what Ajay Jadeja just mentioned. Go out there, relax, set a total, and then put pressure on those sets of 2 who will come out for Chennai.
Yeah, you can't give a toss in a T20 match too much importance as a team. If you're thinking that it's going to influence things massively, maybe just influences what you're comfortable doing, whether you like to bat or bowl first. I think CSK, if we look at their batting strength, it hasn't been great in the middle order in particular. So that's why they like to bowl first, see what they have to chase. And then in many ways, the openers can sort of pace the chase rather than them trying to push things. That, I presume, is the starting 11.
It is unchanged starting 11.
Yeah, interesting. Robin Uthappa, he keeps the spot there at number 3. I suppose that would have been the only discussion, is whether they go back to Raina. But they decided to stick with him. And no surprises. I mean, Chennai are stickers. They're not really massive changes, are they?
Yeah, Ajay, we thought in the last game, once your number 1 and 2 are sort of sorted, that we might see wholesale changes. We were all having discussions here. Imran, Tahir, Lungi, Ngidi, so many players, quality players, who'll get a bit of a shot. But they realize that if they're not going to be our starters at the playoff, why should we just give them in out of generosity? They stuck with it. They've stuck with the team today.
Yeah, and that's been their style. I mean, they played cricket this way, and they probably think ahead of the other teams, and then they go with it. I mean, they believe in something. They think that this is the right way of approaching a game or the tournament, and they try and stick with it. And that's what they've shown, and that's why they've probably been consistent as well. I mean, they're showing consistency everywhere, and that comes out in their game as well. And it's heartening to see. I mean, for a Chennai fan, because I'm now trying to think from how does Chennai play. When Robin Uthappa came in, if you go back to that game, I don't know what kind of injury Suresh has, what has happened to him, but it was against Delhi where they brought him in. And with Mahendra Singh Dhoni, you see these little subtle things. If there is a skill, not even trying to compare both of them, but if each one of them enjoys a certain kind of bowling, Robin is the one who likes the ball coming on, or somebody who's quicker compared to Suresh Raina. So if they've gone with him for 2 games, it's nice to see that they've just carried on with him in such an important game. I know it must have been a tough call to leave Suresh Raina out with all the records, but once you'd left him out for whatever reasons, it is nice to see that Chennai is stuck with him, and maybe today is the day that Robin's going to be the Batman for him.
Now the speculation was in the opposition that the man we've talked about throughout, Marcus Stoinis, would sneak back into the team. Obviously, Ripple Patel was the one to make way. He has made way, but surprise, surprise, it's not Marcus Stoinis. It's one of the Curran brothers, Tom Curran, who's now in the England T20 World Cup team, having thrown his sibling out of the side out through injury. So, Shaun, Pollock, that's an interesting one there, because for someone like Stoinis, he's a sort of batting all-rounder in a sense. Curran, a bowling all-rounder.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we wouldn't have picked that. I think if you had given us the option yesterday or the days before, we probably wouldn't have gone down that route. You don't know what he's doing behind the scenes there. Confidence-wise, hopefully his variations in his bowling department is coming out with a lot of strength and a lot of ability. And then he has, I think the one thing is he played a few important knocks at the start of the season for them, where he did get some runs. So maybe also the fact international, they think big matches, maybe he's got more international experience, so they feel they should go with him. But it's obviously a pity for them. I think they would have loved to have Stoinis, even if he could just stand and bat, even if he couldn't bowl too much with regards to overs. I think it is a blow, and we'll wait and see if they do get through to the final, whether he can play there. But it's an interesting call. One I wouldn't have picked.
Yeah, well, we've got plenty more going on in and around. So one of the little surprises a few days ago, we had told you that for all of you jumping on Cricbuzz Plus, you might have a few surprises come playoff time. So, of course, we've been entreating you to get on Cricbuzz Plus. And if you've already subscribed, it's not too late. You can do it right here, right now. You're going to be part of a historic first, a match party. And you can see some of the usual suspects there, one of whom would probably have been sitting with us, but he's decided it's party time for him. He doesn't want to talk serious cricket, but there's going to be lots and lots of fun there. Match party, 7:15. That's in about 8 minutes from now on Cricbuzz Plus. So as we said, plenty extras that you get over there. But if you're here and you like to pick your 11s, it's not just MS Dhoni, it's not just Rishabh Pant or Ajay Jadeja or Shaun Pollock. It's all of you out there who can put on a captain's hat. Get on My 11 Circle, download the app, pick your 11, pick a captain, And remember, at the end of the day, you've got a big prize waiting for you. Yes, indeed. First prize of 1 crore awaits you if you can get the combination right. What we tend to do here, with the help of our experts, is try and pick a few players who we feel should be in your team. They probably already are. In case you're having second thoughts, these are our My 11 Circles smart picks. And let's come to the first of them, Ajay Jadeja. I'll come to you for Akshar Patel, who's been such an asset for Delhi, not just with ball and his wily spin. Every time he comes into bat, you may not expect it. He may not be the flamboyant Jadeja, the other Jadeja, but he can be. He's getting there.
Yeah, he's done exceptionally well. I mean, to be in that side where you have bowlers of the quality of Rabada and Nokia and Ashwin, he's outshone all of them. I mean, in terms of at least for the spin department, because if you ask me, Ravichandran Ashwin is a far superior bowler, but this man has done exceptionally well. We had Pragyan Oja the other day with us, and he said a very interesting thing about him. And we're talking about the game and saying, who do you look at left-arm spinners? So he said, I like Akshar Patel for a very simple reason, that he probably has the least amount of talent or the skills that you talk about, but he ends up delivering the most amongst all the guys that are around in the case. So that just tells you that how consistent he is, or it's not about just the talent, but it's about he finds his own way of picking wickets. And, the key in that chase, looked like a ranked long hop, but he had a man positioned right exactly where he wanted him. So, he has his own way of, playing the game. He may look different, but he'll always add points to you. So good pick, Gautam.
Yep, fair enough. It's a joint pick. It's a behind-the-scenes production team pick. But one Patel, by the way, missing, just in case you might have had him in your team as an inexpensive pick. But Akshar is there. No Ripple Patel, Akshar Patel there. Shaun, the second of our My 11 Circle smart picks for today, always delivering points when you least expect him to. You think of Chennai, you're thinking Hazelwood, Deepak Chahar up front, Jadeja comes in and picks up wickets. You tend to forget Shardul Thakur, but you look in the wickets column, always there.
Yeah, brilliant. And look at his UAE performance and the fact that his name is in gold. I know some will say Chennai yellow, but I'm saying gold because he's the man with the golden arm. He's got that ability to pick up the big wickets. I mean, we saw in one of the last games he played, they were off to an absolute flyer. Who do you bring on? Bring him on and he picks up 2 wickets quickly. So I think he's full of confidence the way he played in England. I think it really did help him coming back to the rescheduled RPL. He's dragged that confidence with him and he's just been fantastic for them. We haven't really seen too many exploits with the bat as yet, but he's so capable. Look at some of those innings that he played in the Test series for India. So we know he can contribute there, but it's with the ball, he's just been brilliant. I think if things get tough, it's often him they talk to and throw him the ball, and he's delivered. So I think he's a fantastic pick.
Yeah, it's just some X factors about someone like him. If you just look around the field as someone like MS Dhoni, his hand will always be up, Ajay, isn't it? I mean, not that I'm not suggesting there are players who wouldn't put their hand up, but he'll put it up higher than anyone else.
Yeah, he seems to be that kind of a person, and because you need that kind of attitude. What Shaun just was talking about him, that he's just come into those situations, and every time he had a ball in his hand in England, he picked up a wicket. Joe Root was a guy you couldn't get him out. You couldn't find a way to get him out. Came into the side, just bowls a ball. And there is phase in your life that you go through, when everything that you're doing, comes right. And that probably gives you that little extra confidence to come out and even try more things. And he's just been one of those guys in the last year or so that everything that he's touched has turned to gold. And, Mahendra Singh Dhoni would be, looking at him every time that he's in trouble, because in that side, rest of them almost have a role to play. You know exactly that Bravo is going to come right at the end, or when somebody's going to only be smashing, somebody's going to bowl at a different stage of the game. Whereas with Shardul Thakur is his man, that his lucky charm that he's been carrying around. It hasn't worked for him in the last 2-3 games. He's picked up wickets. He's got those numbers and points. If you have him in your team, hasn't worked for Chennai. Maybe today is the day it'll work for you guys and for Chennai.
Yes, indeed. Turns to gold or turns to yellow, or maybe it is gold and yellow, whichever way you want to look at it. But we'll turn back to blue for our third My 11 Smirkle smart pick. Ajay, I'll stay with you on this one to start with. Shikhar Dhawan, Delhi batting first. Of course, not out of choice. They've lost the toss. But in a big match, he's the kind of person you want to come and deliver. Highest score of 101 not out. Not too many people around the world can boast of T20 hundreds.
Yeah, and that's something that you look for. If you have an opening batsman, he has a good day, you want him to see your side through. He has that capability. He has the experience that the young men around him don't have. And I think he probably holds the key, not just for guys who pick him in this 11, but even for Delhi Capitals, because, you've got Karan in. He probably is a bowling all-rounder, not a batting all-rounder like Stoinis. So that batting lineup looks a little thin if you get early breakthroughs. So he'd probably be the guy who makes a difference to this game, how Delhi approaches that innings. And one thing about him is that if you allow him to settle in, over the years, if you see, he's not one to throw it away and go away. So if you need to get him out, you need to, get him into trouble and get him to try something that he's not comfortable. Otherwise, he's experienced enough to hang around. He knows what pace the game's going at. So he understands the game much better than the young guys around him. And that consistency that you saw, he's averaging 50. What more can he do? He could get you lots of points. And plus, when he takes those catches, it's fun to watch his kabaddi or whatever that thigh.
The gabbar thigh slap.
So every time you see a slap, you get a few points as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad before Ajay was finishing his sentence, I was going to sort of pick up and say, add to that his fielding, but he put those points in there as well. But I think all round, I mean, Shikhar Dhawan doesn't bowl, but sometimes we tend to underestimate an all-rounder as someone who stands in those hot spots and takes those key catches, Shaun.
Yeah, he's been good. I think he put one down, which was such a big surprise. He dropped one the other day, and we're like, gosh, I haven't seen that for a long time. It's normally take the catch, do the celebration, and off we go. But I think just the experience as well in a big game, at the top of the order, that left-handed option, it makes life a little bit more difficult for the bowlers having to adjust their lines. So I think in the big matches, you often go to experienced campaigners, and he's got plenty of it to throw at this equation.
Well, big game. We've also got a couple of new innovations. We've told you about one of them on Cricbuzz Plus, but right here on Cricbuzz Live, we've thought we'd go a little in-depth into the two teams and try and assess, do a little SWOT analysis, which of course is essentially about strengths and weaknesses. And we'll go team by team, Shaun. We'll start with the men in gold and yellow, as we now like to say it, and look at their possible strengths and weaknesses. And this is how we've decided to put it down. We've got some other nice, exciting colors in there. But Shaun, take us through maybe just the strengths, and then I'll get Ajay for no other reason, just because we're going in order to talk us about the weaknesses. Shaun?
Yeah, the openers have been brilliant. They basically set the tone for them. But in saying that, they failed twice against Delhi in the round robin stages. And I think the real strength of their team lies in those top two. In the middle order, there's just been Raidu, who's been pretty good, Moeen Ali, Uttapa, Raina, Dhoni. All four of those individuals haven't got going. So I think that would be a little bit of a worry for them. They've got some good bowling options, but if the wicket does take a lot of turn, you've only really got Jadeja to turn to, and he tends to dart it in rather than bowl those massive wicket-taking deliveries. He almost depends on people making mistakes. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But then they're saying that they've got a massive experience, haven't they? They've been in these situations. There's a lot of guys there who know what's on the go. They've just been the ones who've dealt with the pressure, absorbed it, and won championships. So they know how to get over the line.
Okay, change of plan, Ajay. Rather than going quickly to the weaknesses, I want to pick on one more of the strengths that they have there. And I think it's important because we are talking about a playoff game. Their playoff strengths generally themselves and their playoff record against Delhi. Remember, they've lost both times to Delhi this season at the league stage. But historically, playoff record against Delhi, spot on. Will come to the party, won't it?
I don't know. I mean, how many times have they been runners-up? I mean, the biggest playoff is finals. I'm maybe the biggest fan of theirs, but I think the strength that they have is that they're consistent, and it's the big one-off games where the opposition has nothing to lose and they're not playing with any fear is when they actually go down. So I don't see that as their strength. I see their strength as being a solid side in a longer run. But on the playoff day, yes, because of their experience, you're absolutely right that they probably hold that. There it is. But the experience that they've got, I mean, look at that. I mean, the guys played 24 playoff games. Ravindra's played 19, Raidu's played 19, Bravo's played 17, Uttapa may have played some of those somewhere else, Duplessis played 10. So what the strength that there you see is not just the numbers of times that these guys have played, but every time they've been together. So you see that unit that's together, that's played off. So they have the experience of being in a playoff. I think most of those playoffs, they probably have not won. Because if you put that list of number of finals that they've lost, that is something that, they would really want to turn it around. They make consistent wins. They don't win when, that one game, because they play with no pattern. So if somebody comes and beats them, that's the only time they get beaten. They don't make mistakes. They just go about doing their business, and that list that you put up there very clearly shows you, and they've all been together for so long that they stick to their style of play. So you need to come out and do something different on a day. And every time that has happened, as a Chennai fan over the years, you remember those games like somebody like Manvinder Bisla came and blew them away in that final, and you don't see Bisla ever again. So that is my fear with them. That's the weakness I look at. I don't look at that as their strength.
Well, let's go straight to that then. If you started that, let's go ease slightly into the weaknesses. We'll go back into what we've prepared. And that is one point that Ajay has made. But is there any one of these 4 points, Ajay, and we'll get Shaun to pick one as well, that you think may be a key a key weakness that might come to the fore today?
I think amongst all those lack of frontline spinners, is probably one that might come good today. For a simple reason, because you've got Moeen Ali as well in that side, and I expect Moeen Ali to probably play a bigger role in there. This ground allows you to do that. Ravindra, I'm totally with Shaun, what he said. He needs a surface to really help him out. And what we saw in that last game in Dubai was a little bit of help that was coming. And once that comes in, and we have this little joke, not a joke, but this is how we talk about Ravindra in the Hindi shows, is that he's a real estate man. Once that real estate is useful to him, then he just doesn't give up, because he does what he does so well. And if he gets purchased from there, then he becomes unplayable. So that weakness has to turn into their strength today for everything to turn around.
Fair enough. Shaun's already started thinking about real estate prices in South Africa, what we have in India. You're in the UAE right now. We're not buying any real estate. We're just renting it out. Ravindra Jadeja is on rent today in Dubai. Let's see what he can do with that. But interesting point he makes. I just want to take that forward a little bit. Neither of these sides for the moment have the kind of the ripping leg spinner who's become almost fashionable in modern T20 cricket. You've got the Chahals of the world. You've got the Rashid Khans. You have Mishra sitting on the sidelines for Delhi. You have Imran Tahir sitting and warming the bench for Chennai, but doesn't quite make it into the 11 for the moment. Is that one of those impactful spinners, a wrist spinner that they're missing out on maybe?
Yeah, I think also you go down to the surfaces. Sometimes at this stage of a tournament, they're starting to rip square, much like what we saw from the Chennai surface at the start of the IPL. We haven't really seen that. We haven't seen massive raging turners. They've been slow and they've been difficult to get off the square and maybe not come on like the batters have wanted. But we haven't seen a massive amount of purchase. So I don't think they will miss one of those guys. The mystery spinners are key. I mean, they have a massive impact, and particularly when new men walk to the crease, what do you do? Do you pick them? Can you whack them away at the first start of your innings? But I think none of those surfaces have really played their part. So I don't even know if the leg spinners would have been that much of a contribution.
The two gentlemen who have been the talking points for Chennai have been Ruturaj Gaikwad and Francois Duplessis. Every time they've walked out, you're just looking around and seeing where you are at the end of the 10-over mark, and they're still there. But let's have a look at their record against Delhi this season. And let's see if there's something we can read into from that point of view. Now, Ajay, we often talk about matchups in this game. They've had a party this tournament, but every time Delhi have come, they spoiled their party.
Yeah, I mean, what could it be? It could be only, what I see is, the quality of bowling that you have to face right at the top. You've got Nokia going the way he is and Rabada the way he's going. So if you get four out of those 6 overs from them, they are capable of knocking you off. It's not that you make a mistake. It's not that, they're beating you with pace or, with guile and disguise, but it's just pure sheer quality of bowling. And I think that's probably something that they'll have to worry about, or they'll have to be careful about. Not worry, they'll have to get through that phase. And I think that's exactly what shows in that thing, that when you don't put them under pressure for not losing a wicket, because they're so calm, not just two of them and the entire Chennai Super Kings, they don't make a mistake. Like I said, it's a thing that you see with that side entirely. But when you come out and give them more questions than they have answers to, it is when they start taking chances. Or in those particular two cases, I think one, Akshar Patel got Faf du Plessis very early, so it's not that pace got him. But what happens is, when you've got that kind of pace coming and that's what you're going to be facing all day as a batsman, then you are also planning your innings. So you probably try and push against that spinner who you feel that you're more comfortable, a little harder, and that's when you lose those wickets. So I'm sure they've learned from the mistakes that they've made in the last couple of times. And Faf du Plessis will be the key, because you've got those 8 overs from these two guys, and then Avishka Khan is also bowling at a decent pace, a different length. He doesn't go to Yorker straight away or anything. So they are asking you questions. You'll have to find answers. And du Plessis is the man. If he stays at the end, it'll be a total different Chennai team. I know we're going to be chasing later, but if you lose him early out of that pair, I think that would make the biggest dent into that Chennai Super Kings.
Let's come to the fast bowler quickly, Shaun, because for Rituraj Gaikwad, who again looked brilliant throughout the season, we remember his last dismissal, sort of slightly high on the bat. He was a little late perhaps, but he was definitely beaten for pace. So Delhi will have done their homework. Nokia will sort of have a quick whisper to Rishabh Pant, give me the ball, let me sort him out.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be a massive part of the game. I think Ricky Ponting would have spent a lot of time coming up with plans for those two individuals in particular. If you look at the leading run scorers, both those guys, I think they're 2 and 3. So they're the ones who've been the bulk of the runs that have been scored by Chennai. In the middle order, 3 and 4 for Chennai haven't been really good. Dhoni hasn't been really good. So if you get early wickets, that's going to set you up brilliantly. So you've got to focus. And the best thing in these big games as a coaching staff is to try and get your team into the match. Once they're into the match, just let them go. But those first 3 or 4 overs are so vitally important. So they would have spent a lot of time, particularly coming up with game plans. And that will be one of them, to try and target him, to try and rattle him with some fast bowling and try and put him under pressure. And also, obviously, the two South Africans will have a good idea where to bowl to Faf. But I think that's a key matchup when they do come out to bat Chennai. And the plans of Delhi will definitely be, we need to get off to a good start here. How are we going to do it?
Yeah, it's always brilliant how this tournament brings up the international rivalries in a sense, but international friendships that you can actually utilize for a little bit of spy work. But let's come to Delhi, Ajay. Let's have a look at what we've put up in terms of strengths and weaknesses. And again, we'll start on the green column on the left, the openers and the middle order. Unlike Chennai, here they've been getting runs from both sides of it. But just see what you can pick in terms of the versatility of their bowling attack, which is what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I think versatility of that bowling attack, and just above that, what you have not conceding boundaries. What that clearly tells you is what? I mean, you will concede boundaries at the end of the innings or maybe at the top. It's at the middle stage of the game. A boundary is generally hit to a ball that shouldn't have been bowled or shouldn't have got there. Not that the bowlers are trying to bowl wide outside the off stump where you can cut it easily or flick it, where there's no risk taking happening. So that versatility allows the captain to use them much better in different conditions, different batsmen. But once the bowlers are bowling, they've taken the boundaries out of the game. I think what Ravichandran Ashwin has done, as a purist, I would still love to see him, beat people in the air because he's got that ability. But he's just taken that whole game out. I mean, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to get it for a 6. He much rather bowl flatter. Maybe get one boundary somewhere, cutting it or sweeping it. But he's not allowing you to, run the play. And that's the case with all of them, even with Akshar Patel. He's also one of those guys who just comes in, so they've taken away those boundaries, and they've been able to do that because they have that versatility that they have with their bowling. Because they're 5 pure bowlers, not one bowls like the other one. And not one has a mindset similar to the other one. So you can't get more versatile than that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Rishabh Pant, but I probably feel that he has a long way to go as well to learn how to utilize his resources. maybe he hasn't utilized his resources as well as he could have. Plus, he could have got many more runs as well.
One thing I'll add to that, Gautam, I know we're getting close to the start of the game. Tom Curran comes in wide. That gives them the 6 bowling option. And if we look at that, it's been the bowling at the death that's been a problem. So maybe that's what they're after from him. Maybe they're after those back of the hand slow balls and the mixing it up to be key under the pressure situation of the death bowling.
Yeah, fair point. Let's have a quick look at that. Exactly what Shaun has mentioned this season in terms of their death bowling. And I think this is an area that they'd want to address. And the fact that they've got the extra versatility in or the option. One more quick point I want to bring up, because Delhi are batting, Shaun, and let's bring this up. Let's just bring that graphic back again in terms of strengths and weaknesses, and pick on one last point before we wrap up this discussion for Delhi, and that is one weakness, Shaun. No 50+ scores in the UAE. Yes, their strength has been their openers early half of the season. Today, they need to put runs on the board. This is one area they'll want to rectify.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the point in case. I think Shikhar Dhawan is the one guy who, once he gets in, normally looks to bat long and try and get to the latter parts. Prithvi Shaw throws it away too often for me. He often gets off to a nice fast start and then will toss it away. And too many of their batters do that. The 6-hitting problem, I think that's been down to Stoinis. I think he's the real bludgeoner that they've missed at the back end. But in finals, it's a case in point. As the coaches, you always want to stress to your individuals, if it's your day, if you get past that initial 30, if you get yourself in, you have to make it pay. You have to be the hero of the day for us. Get that big score and put the game out of reach.
Well, I just want both of you to quickly think about our last order of business, that is the prediction for the score. But before we do that, and while you're thinking about it, we'll give you our Joy Factor question. Normally, Joy would have been on the show, but he's busy partying on Match Party today on Cricbuzz Plus. But he's given us a question. He had enough time to do that. The first time this happened in a test match, Billy Murdoch got a double. And the last time it happened, Chris Gayle got a 100. What am I talking about? First time this happened in a test match, Billy Murdoch got a double. The last time, Gayle got a triple. So think about it. Maybe if you're not from the Billy Murdoch era, which I hope you wouldn't be if you're watching this show, try and get into Chris Gayle, figure out what happened in that game, and come out with the answer. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Gentlemen, are you ready with your prediction for our 20-over score for Delhi batting first, having lost the toss? John Pollock, would you like to go first?
I'm going to go 167.
167, nice cautious score. Not even sure that's going to be a winning score in this kind of a game, but nonetheless, Ajay, you're going to go higher?
Yeah, you got to go higher if they want to, win this game. Delhi Capitals will need a lot more than that. I don't know what surface we're playing, but I'll go 10+. So we leave that space for Shaun.
177. Let me keep the 7 theme going, but go under. 157, 157, 167, 177. Easy to remember, and we've got a wide enough window to see all the way from 152 to 182. That is the window that we have for all of you. 10th over, we're going to have Cricbuzz Combox. We'll be back to assess how much Delhi are possibly going to set in this first qualifier. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Shaun. We'll see all of you very soon. This is Cricbuzz Live in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.